Now that the ICC has issued warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, Canadian law enforcement is obligated to arrest them should they come to Canada. Will you allow that to happen, or will you step in to prevent an arrest?
First of all, as Canada has always said, it's really important that everyone abide by international law. This is something we've been calling on from the beginning of the conflict. We are one of the founding members of the International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice. We stand up for international law, and we will abide by all the regulations and rulings of the international courts. This is just who we are as Canadians.
You know, Tamara Ugolini, I had to watch that clip twice because the first time I was watching it, I was completely distracted by that little goblin, Fraulein Freeland, smiling like the Cheshire Cat. There she goes with her twitching. Is she getting enough sleep? I'm getting concerned about the well-being of the Deputy Prime Minister. But what a disgrace, as you alluded to earlier. Talk about emboldening the Jew haters, right? Justin Trudeau, remember I speculated what did Trudeau say to Chief Demkew? I'll tell you what I think, and I don't have a scintilla of proof, but I'd bet a donut on it. I think Trudeau said to Chief Demkew, listen, in less than a year, we got an election coming up, and we've done the math. There are 5 times as many Muslims as there are Jews in Canada. And no hard feelings, it's strictly business. And by the way, folks, I want to add a caveat here. I am not saying all the Muslims in Canada support these pro-Hamas terrorist thugs. You know, they absolutely do not. But this is what Trudeau is banking on. So yeah, to further ingratiate himself with the pro-Hamas demographic, it is a public relations coup, at least Blackface thinks it is, to say, yeah, I'm going to get tough with Bibi should he ever have the audacity to show his face in our Dominion. You know what the incredible perverse irony is, Tamara Ugolini? It's the fact that as much as he's catered to this base, I think I mentioned this earlier, as we saw again in Mississauga at that $1,750 a plate fundraiser for Trudeau, you had the pro-Hamas people there, and they were chanting genocide Justin. So even though he says he'll arrest the Prime Minister of Israel, even though he has his despicable Canadian Israeli Jew Yara Sachs go over to the Middle East and get cuddly with pay-for-slay terrorist Mahmoud Abbas, it doesn't matter. You can't please these people. It seems that, and lest we forget, issuing 5,000 visas to Gazans. Talk about throwing gasoline on the fire, because we know, according to polls, folks, about 80% of Gazans still support Hamas, and not even Arab nations in the Middle East will accept these people. But hashtag welcome to Canada, right? So here we have Trudeau standing on the wrong side of history. Israel is surrounded by evil. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. It's evil. This war is all about civilization versus savagery. But he feels he's got to make these pronouncements. You know, great front page on the Sun today, Tamara Ugolini, Mr. Cuff Guy. Get it? Not tough guy, cuff guy. And I read the story, and below the story, death toll in Gaza war passes 44,000, says Palestinian officials. Oh, really? Which Palestinian officials? Hamas? Oh, wait a minute. Well, okay, that must be legit. Yeah, they're capable of murder, kidnapping, torture, beheading. But surely they wouldn't lie. They wouldn't fudge the numbers. And by the way, 44,000 in such a small territory. Tamara Ugolini, I hate to be impolite, but where are the bodies?
Yeah, a lot of it really, and sadly, doesn't make sense. And those numbers are highly contestable and should deserve to be scrutinized. And I think a lot more people are starting to think about that and not take things at face value. And if it's been any indication the last 4 years that you cannot trust this data and the numbers put out by certain biased organizations without a grain of salt, I think that more people are seeing that now. But back to the way that the Liberals are conducting themselves and Trudeau's comments. You have also our Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, basically reiterating his same sentiments that Canada will abide by its obligation under the ICC treaty. So these are almost like thinly veiled deflections onto other governing bodies that, it reads to me like our hands are tied, but we're going to do this thing because another entity told us that we're part of, that we have to. Here's her remarks.
The U.S. says that they don't like the ICC's decision that Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested. Do you agree with the U.S. or do you agree with the ICC that this is a good decision to put out a warrant?
So I'll let the U.S. take its own decisions. When it comes to us, the Prime Minister was asked that question earlier today. So I think that we should all remind ourselves that the situation in Gaza is absolutely catastrophic. Too many women and children have been killed. And at the same time, hostages need to be released. And Weinstein's remains need to be returned to her family and to her daughter, Iris, which I'm in close contact with. And that's why we need a ceasefire. And that's been Canada's position for a long, long time. Now, Canada is a founding member of the ICC. Canada has always believed not only that international law is important, but international law needs to apply to all parties at all times. And at the same time, in order to do so, we need accountability in our world. And so based on that, Canada will abide by its obligation under the ICC treaty.
If Mr. Netanyahu or Mr. Dave set foot on Canadian soil, they would be arrested.
So what I've said is we will abide by our treaty obligations because we believe in international accountability. We believe in the ICC. Now, I won't give an hypothetical answer based on a hypothetical question, but my point is Canada's founding member has signed the treaty and therefore needs to follow its obligations.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. And Tamara Ugolini, is it just me, but with every passing week, inexplicably, why is it Melanie Joly is getting blonder and blonder? She's one bottle of peroxide away from being the spokeswoman for the Aryan nations, for goodness sakes. But, this is absolutely despicable. Again, let's be clear about the death toll, even if it is disproportionate. I don't remember, and I've read a lot of books about the history of warfare, Tamara Ugolini, but I have never seen in history a nation, namely Israel, go to war with one hand always tied behind its back, which is to say, whenever it's going to, flush out these Hamas rats and, take out the terrorists, they announce it. They do flyovers and drop leaflets. And now because of the modern world we live in addition to that, they go on social media and they say, do not be in this area. So what I'm getting at is there is a huge difference. Whatever the casualty number is, there's a huge difference in terms of collateral damage of human beings being killed. Let's face it, war is messy. And what happened on October 7th, 2023, a deliberate massacre of almost 1,200 innocent civilians, plus the kidnapping of 250 more. If Melanie Joly and Blackface and Yara Sachs, the biggest self-hating Jew in Canada, can't understand that, well, they better give their heads a shake, because that is the hard reality on the ground.
And well, what about this NDP MP, Heather McPherson, who was wearing the Hamas poppy, was wearing this watermelon pin as though it was a poppy for Remembrance Day in the House of Commons. We have the clip here.
Mr. Speaker, a UN report has found that Israel's warfare in Gaza is consistent with the characteristics of genocide. The Liberal government is legally obligated by the Genocide Convention to prevent and stop Netanyahu's attack on Palestinians. Turning a blind eye to mass casualties is not an option. Entire families have been decimated. Children are starving to death. When will the Liberals live up to their obligations, sanction Netanyahu and his extreme cabinet, and finally put in place an actual arms embargo?
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker.
You know, Tamara Ugolini, again, thank you for educating me, because when I originally saw that clip, I thought that that was half of the Pride Progress rainbow. The other half had fallen off. And by the way, for all you lefties out there who are so gung-ho on the LGBTQ XYZ PP2SI, how are your queer constituents treated in a place like Gaza? You know, well, if you want to find out, buy them a ticket. One way, by the way, you don't need a return trip if you're openly gay, lesbian, bisexual, or trans, because the preferred method of execution is to go up a tall building, those that remain, and fall to your death. Well, not fall, you're pushed, actually. But evidently, that's the Palestinian symbol, so... you're right, Tamara Ugolini. What an upside-down world we're living in today.
Well, and I saw that I made a flub there about the Hamas poppy, but that's because it's not far off. There has been the appropriation of the Canadian poppy, and I'm just going to put a link here. And the appropriated poppy is down toward, I would say about halfway down the Toronto Sun article by Joe Warmington. And it's poppies for Palestine. And this is this is absolutely crazy that they're taking such a renowned symbol of freedom and independence for Canada and exploiting it in such a way. So for anybody who doesn't know that that is a thing, there it is. There's one of the posters where the poppy has been appropriated by this agenda.